I think the G14 is consistently one of the most popular laptops that Asus has because it's small, it's powerful, and it goes on sale pretty regularly. You can get this thing at a fairly reasonable price without trying too hard. And in the past, it's always been like an A tier or an S tier product to me. But this year, they made something really special. So this is running AMD's new CPUs, and it's also running AMD's new GPUs, and it's combined in hardware that has been tweaked and updated to take advantage of those new components. And we have a laptop that is so much better than the previous stuff, it's kind of weird. So let's start off with the size. It's a 14-inch device, it's very compact and lightweight. It comes in this white color, which I'm a huge fan of, and there's this bluish purple badge down here, which is slightly different this year. I think it's a really nice looking touch. But on a device like this, it's very hard to pack it with powerful components and cool it properly. Like a lot of companies have struggled with it, but the G14 has always been able to do it pretty well. But this year, they just took it to a whole new level. So the CPU in here is the 6900HS from AMD, and it pumps out about 15% better performance than the 5900HS on last year's model. But if you compare it to Intel's newest stuff, Intel's chip is faster. This new AMD chip is great, but it can't take the crown in terms of just raw performance. But the key here is energy consumption, because in order for Intel to get those numbers, it has to pump a lot of power into its chip. And with great power comes a lot of heat. And on a device like this, that is small and compact and thin, heat is the deciding factor as to what you can do with it, like what kind of components you can put into a device like this. So we have a pretty energy efficient CPU, but the GPU in here is where it really steps it up. So on last year's model, the top end configuration of this could only get up to an RTX 3060, a pretty good GPU, but still just a 3060. This year, they have their new AMD 6800S, and the performance that you're getting out of this chip is so much better than the RTX 3060. It'll depend on the game or the app they're using, but in general, it's a legit 30 to 40% bump in performance in just one product generation. It's fantastic. It's between like a 3070 and a 3080 in terms of performance. It is, however, a 105 watt GPU instead of the 80 watt from the previous generation. So it's like a 20, maybe 25% bump in energy consumption, but like a solid 30 to 40% bump in performance. It's absolutely worth it. Now, to pull this off, to have higher wattage and the same chassis size as before, you have to have a better thermal system than the previous stuff, right? So they've done a few things. The fan blades have been tweaked, so they draw a little bit more air. The vapor chamber is a little bit bigger. It covers a lot more stuff now. So it's got the CPU, the GPU, and the VRMs all covered with the vapor chamber. And they have liquid metal on both the CPU and the GPU. They've clearly put in a lot of effort to make this thing as thermally capable as they can, but when you push this system hard, it gets hot. It's actually a couple degrees hotter than last year's model. It's way more powerful than that one, but when you slam it, it gets hot. It doesn't throttle, and the external temperatures are fine, but I just do not like seeing 96 degrees Celsius on a CPU, even if it's an AMD one. Now, it depends on what you do, but you probably won't max out the temperatures on this device. I just would have liked to have seen more aggressive cooling, like even fans that were a little bit louder, because these are not that loud. And I feel like on a device that can get this hot, they should have pushed it a little bit harder. Now, for the people that are interested, these new AMD chips have an integrated GPU as well, the RX 680M, and the performance is pretty decent, but I do think that for most people that have a device like this, they would usually just use the discrete GPU when they have the option. Now, the screen is updated. So this is a 16:10 aspect ratio now, and it is a really nice looking screen. It's QHD, it's bright, it's got fast refresh rate, fast response time, it's way better than the previous stuff, there's no more ghosting, good colors, muck switch, kick-ass screen. There's also a webcam up top, so for the people that want to log in with facial biometrics, now you have that option. And the fact that there's a webcam on the G14 is a huge win. But there is one thing of concern. So the G14 products and the G15, they have this thing called Ergolift, where when you put the lid of the laptop back, it lifts the keyboard. But this mechanism has this thing where the exhaust of the hot air blasts against the screen. Now, on the old G14 and the G15, because those have like a thicker chin, like a bezel at the bottom, the hot air is just hitting the plastic. It's not ideal, but based on my test, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. This year, because of the 16:10 aspect ratio screen, that hot air hits the panel directly, like right onto the LCD. Now, I'm sure they've tested it. I'm sure their engineers have thought about this and looked at it, but it's just weird to see super hot exhaust hitting the panel directly. I'm just saying, Now the keyboard has also been tweaked this year. It's now a full white color instead of that silvery finish that they had previously. This shows the lettering a little bit more clearly. It's got RGB lighting, and I really like the layout. I'm someone who's used the G15 keyboard so much that transitioning over to this was really easy, but I think most people will enjoy it. It does not have a print screen, which some people require. Some of my programs actually need it. It's not the same as Windows Shift S or Function F6. It's the dedicated print screen button. But yeah, good keyboard. Trackpad is also really good. I think this is one of the best surfaces. It's got a great texture to that glass, and the click mechanic sounds and feels nice. Okay, the top lid. So this has that Anime Matrix LED lighting, and it's been upgraded this year. There's more LEDs in there, but the idea is the same. It's a cool feature, but to me, the novelty wears off pretty quick. It's just like this area you can throw up memes, but if you like that kind of stuff, it is better this year. Now, in terms of battery life, I was getting slightly longer runtimes this year, but they didn't change the size of the cell. This is still a 76 watt-hour battery. It's just that the chip is more energy efficient. Now, the charger is a little bit bigger. It's a 240 watt instead of the older 180, and it's just required to feed the more powerful components in here. The rest of the stuff, we have a single slot of DDR5, which is replaceable. The rest of the memory is baked onto the motherboard, and then we also have a single NVMe drive. And underneath it is the Wi-Fi card, which you can replace if you want. They're running a MediaTek Wi-Fi again. So personally, I'd swap that out for an Intel chip. Down here, we have two speakers that have been upgraded. These actually sound quite a bit louder than the previous stuff. The mid frequencies and lower frequencies are decent. They're no MacBook speakers, but for a gaming laptop, they're not bad. I'll give them that. And y'all can see the big vapor chamber down there. Now also, on the bottom of this panel, they have this aluminum section, which is a little bit different from the previous year. This area does get warmer when you're running the system. So if you're doing like a render or something and you're having this thing on your lap, it's gonna get a little bit warmer. It doesn't get like crazy hot, but I think it helps with the thermals, but it's just something to keep in mind. If you're someone who uses this device on the lap frequently, it's gonna be a little warmer this time around. And there's also some dust filters on this back plate. In terms of ports, there's two USB-A and two USB-Cs. The USB-C on the left side is supposed to be able to support USB 4 in terms of hardware. It's capable of it, but they just don't have the drivers apparently for it yet. So it's to come. The AC adapter comes out the side here as well, which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer kind of rear mounted AC adapters if you can get them. But overall, this is a fantastic device. Now, in this video, I talked about thermals, right? And it gets a little hot. The thing is, when you have a device like this and you want it to be as powerful as it can be, you are gonna hit the wall of temperature. Every manufacturer has that issue. Doesn't matter if it's Alienware or Razer or these guys. Small devices, powerful components, it always gets hot. I do think they have a great product this year, both in aesthetics and in performance, but keep in mind that it is a small system, and small systems always have limitations of some sort. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.